The first time the forest answered back, it was only an echo. That's what I told myself as the sound rolled across the canopy and came back as if the trees had learned my name. We were four: Maya, Armel, Jules, and me, days upriver from Mbondoka in a slender pirogue that hummed with the two-stroke engine's tantrums. The Morinar widened like a brown ribbon unspooling through lungs of green. Smoke columns rose from slash-burn plots. Kingfishers stitched blue lightning between reeds. Rain arrived as a moving wall and left everything rinsed and steaming. We weren't tourists. Maya collected acoustic data on forest elephants to map migration corridors. Armel, Congolese, was our fixer and field medic, a former ranger with the kind of smile that made you trust him until you noticed it never reached his eyes. Jules handled the recorders and cameras, a soft-spoken Swiss who only got loud about batteries. I wrote the grants, then said yes when the funders asked for proof of progress. Proof meant kilometers. Villages thinned. We traded salt for smoked fish and stories. People warned us about militias to the east, miners to the south, spirits everywhere, and a carved mask in one boy's hands that he wouldn't sell even after Jules emptied his pockets. At night, we tied the pirogue to roots like black knuckles and slept with a mosquito net pulled tight, each dawn waking to a new, familiar smell: rotting fruit, diesel, wet canvas, fear. On the fourth day, Armel cut the motor mid-channel and listened. Hear that? The river hissed. A woven sound, almost human, threaded the leaves. Chains, Jules said finally. He was right. Metal clanked in an irregular rhythm, like a work party swinging picks in a faraway shaft. Logging? Maya asked. No concession here, Armel said. And that's inland. We moved anyway. Money had already been spent. The GPS died at noon. The sky had a fever, and the trees sweated resin. We poled into a creek so narrow the branches combed our hair. After an hour the creek ended in a wall of elephant pepper and a forgotten camp, tarps shredded into phantoms, a latrine trench filled with rain, a cooking tripod rusted down to 3 orange teeth. The sound of chains came from the trees behind the camp. Then it stopped. Jules set up a parabolic mic and wheeled it like a satellite until the headphones trembled with insects. Maya found boot prints around a circle of stones. Maybe they left in a hurry, she said. She counted 4 sizes of soles. One was small, a child's. Miners? I asked. Or a family cut through, Armel said. His fingers were damp with rust when he brushed the tripod. Or someone wanted us to read this place like a story. At dusk, we lit no fire. We ate cold cassava and sardines that tasted like the inside of a battery. Armel hung a radio antenna from a branch and tried to catch a UN convoy check-in. All we got was a wash of voices and static. It sorted itself into phrases that didn't belong on our frequency. Names, a prayer in Lingala, something like, "Turn your boat around." The same voice repeated it twice more, breathless, as if running. "Hoax," Jules said, shaking his head. "Which way does a hoax point?" I asked. "Back the way we came," Armel said. He put the radio down, and the forest answered again, not echo this time, something closer. A clink, a footfall, a retaliatory silence wider than the river. The next morning, we found footprints behind the camp. Not ours. These were smaller, lighter, and fresh. The ground was damp with last night's rain, and the impressions were sharp, almost dainty. Barefoot. Whoever it was had walked through the mud without slipping once. Armel crouched, pressing a finger into the nearest print. "Too clean," he muttered. "Not normal." "Maybe someone was watching us," Maya said, scanning the tree line. Her breath misted in the heavy air, and even the insects had gone quiet. "Or maybe they're still watching," Jules added. We packed fast, stuffing wet gear into sacks. The silence was worse than any sound, an absence that made your heartbeat sound intrusive. I thought of the radio voice telling us to turn back and nearly suggested we do. But when I met Maya's eyes, I saw the same stubborn fire that had gotten us this far upriver. Funding, publication, discovery, they all demanded proof. Fear didn't pay salaries. Armel led us deeper inland, machete slashing through vines thick as wrists. The forest folded over us like a cathedral, all columns of trees and hanging roots. Heat pressed down until sweat became a second skin. Around midday we found another camp, newer, almost neat. 3 canvas tents stood in a triangle, ropes still taut, a fire pit cold but swept clean. "They left recently," Jules said, filming as he walked. "No ashes, no footprints near the pit." "Maybe they burned them off," Maya suggested. She was joking, but her voice cracked at the end. Inside one tent, I found notebooks written in French and Lingala, the pages smudged and water-warped. There were entries listing coordinates, samples, and short sentences that didn't belong in scientific logs. Chants at 3 o'clock. No one admitted singing. Third chain found in same tree hollow. Don't follow the reflection. Armel read over my shoulder. Explorers. Or surveyors. Maybe missing. Missing. Maya repeated. "Do you know how many disappear in this part of the basin every year?" Armel didn't answer. He folded one of the notebooks and tucked it into his vest. That night, rain came down in sheets. The forest turned into a breathing, dripping body. We couldn't light a fire again, too visible, so we ate in the dark. Jules played back a few recordings from earlier, hoping to capture the distant chains again. Instead, the headphones spat out whispers. Not words, just the sound of someone trying not to be heard. The whisper rose and fell like breathing near the microphone. Maya yanked off the headset. "That wasn't us." "No," Jules said, pale. "It came after the recorder was placed." We argued until lightning shredded the sky. The flash revealed something outside the tent wall, a silhouette, thin and still, facing us. When the light faded, there was nothing but dripping leaves. Armel grabbed his rifle, motioning for silence. He stepped out barefoot, moving slow. Minutes passed. The rain softened. Then came his whisper from the dark. "Come see." We followed, feet sinking into the flooded soil. He pointed his flashlight down. There, half buried in mud, lay a chain. Not rusted. New. Each link was twisted from jungle vine, hardened with sap until it looked like metal, and from one end hung a carved wooden mask, smeared with something dark. "Tourist art?" I asked weakly. "No artisan does this," Armel said. "See the teeth marks?" The mask's edges were gnawed, human teeth marks, shallow but deliberate. That night no one slept. Every few minutes, something rustled outside the tent, then stopped as soon as we turned our heads. Near dawn, Maya whispered, "If they wanted to hurt us, they would have already." Jules stared at the flap. "Maybe they don't want to hurt us," he said softly. "Maybe they just want us to stay." By the third morning, the rain had stopped, but the air felt wrong, thicker, charged, as if every leaf held its breath. Mist clung to the undergrowth, smothering sight and sound. Jules refused to move until we checked the recorders again. "If something's following us, we need proof," he said, voice shaking more from exhaustion than conviction. We played the overnight file. For a while, only rain. Then, footsteps circling the tent, slow and careful. Breathing, a faint metallic clink. Finally, a sound that made my stomach twist, someone whispering our names. Not all at once, but one by one, as if counting. Could be playback interference, I said quickly. Wind or modulation. Say that again, Maya snapped. Because unless the wind learned to pronounce my name, that wasn't interference. Armel scanned the forest edge. We go, he said simply. Now. We packed and left, leaving the chain behind. The GPS was still dead, so Armel steered by the sun. We followed a narrow track used by elephants, mud up to the calves, roots like buried ropes. Every step felt watched. By midday, we reached a dry ridge scattered with stone pillars, remnants of an old mining post from the Belgian era, Armel said. Rusted machinery lay half swallowed by vines, and one hut still stood, roof sagging like a weary head. We decided to rest there. Jules set up cameras around the perimeter, while Maya checked our coordinates manually using her maps. She frowned. According to this, the river should be 2 kilometers east. It's west, Armel said. No, east. They argued until the forest itself interrupted, a long, hollow cry, like metal dragged against bark. We froze. Then came another, closer, the sound bending through trees like something too large to belong here. Armel raised his rifle. Inside, he hissed. We crowded into the hut. The air reeked of oil and rot. Inside, a line of chains hung from a ceiling beam, 20, maybe more, each link black with age. Beneath them sat bones, animal or human, impossible to tell. Why would miners hang chains like that? I asked. They wouldn't, Armel said. He was looking at the far wall. Carved into it, barely visible under moss, were dozens of handprints, each smaller than a child's. They overlapped like frantic brushstrokes, as if whoever made them tried to cover the entire wall before running out of time. Maya backed away. We should leave. Jules kept filming. No one's going to believe this. Good, Armel said. They shouldn't. We waited until the sounds faded. Then we stepped back into the clearing and found fresh tracks around the hut. Barefoot again. Small, circular patterns, almost playful. Maya whispered. They were right outside while we were in there. Jules zoomed in with his camera. No, not while. After. The prints overlapped ours, newer. That night, we made camp on higher ground. I stayed awake listening. The forest felt alive in a different way now, not hostile but aware. Each creak, each sigh of wind seemed purposeful. At some point, I dozed off. When I woke, the fire was dead and Jules was gone. His sleeping bag lay open, recorder still running beside it. I hit playback. The first few seconds were normal breathing, then a low voice. You said you wanted proof. A pause, then dragging sounds, and Jules muttering weakly. Stop, please, stop. Maya stumbled out of her tent, eyes wild. Where is he? Armel was already moving downhill, flashlight slicing the dark. We found his camera first, still recording, pointed at a hollow between roots. The lens showed nothing but black soil and a glint of metal. We dug with our hands until we uncovered the last thing any of us expected. Another chain, coiled like a sleeping snake, its end clasped around a torn piece of Jules' shirt. We shouted until our voices splintered against the trees. Jules didn't answer. The forest, generous until now with its sounds, gave us nothing back. Armel called again, switching between Lingala and French, his tone halfway between command and prayer. When the only reply was wind, he lowered the rifle. We find him at first light, he said. Not before. Maya refused. He could be hurt. We can't just. You go out now, you won't come back, Armel said, voice flat. This place isn't for moving in the dark. We waited. The hours stretched thin. Every so often I thought I saw movement at the edge of camp, a shape smaller than a person, darting between the trees, just slow enough to be seen. Maya clutched Jules' recorder to her chest like a relic. When dawn finally came, it arrived grey and hollow, without birdsong. We followed the drag marks downhill. Mud streaks led to a ravine carved by rainwater, its bottom hidden under mist. Armel went first, sliding down the bank. I followed, the earth slick beneath my boots. The ravine smelled of iron and decay. Halfway down, we found Jules, or what was left of him. His body lay on its side, eyes open, mouth full of soil. Around his wrists were marks, not rope, but impressions shaped like vines, deep enough to draw blood. The same vine chains we'd seen before. Maya collapsed beside him. "We're leaving," she whispered. "Right now." Armel stared at the corpse, then at the slope above us. "We need to burn him. He won't stay." I thought he meant animals. I was wrong. We built a pyre from dead branches, doused it with ethanol from the med kit. The flame took fast. Smoke rose thick and oily, curling toward the canopy. For a second it looked like figures twisting inside it, arms reaching upward, but that could have been the heat. Could have been. By midday, the river was still nowhere to be found. Every direction looked like the same green corridor. Armel tried to orient himself with moss growth, but even that seemed to lie. "It shouldn't all face north," he muttered. Then the whispering began again, at first faint, then multiplying, voices woven through leaves. They called our names, mine, Maya's, even Jules'. When I turned, I thought I saw him standing among the trees, soaked, pale, smiling like he'd finally understood something we hadn't. But he was wrong, dead wrong, and then he was gone. Maya screamed. The forest screamed back. We ran without thinking. Branches slashed at our faces. Roots grabbed our feet. At some point, Armel fired twice into the air. The sound cracked the world open. When the echo died, we realized the voices had stopped. We stumbled into a clearing we didn't recognize, a circle of blackened stumps, the earth packed flat like a drum. In the center stood a wooden totem carved from a single trunk. Around its base hung the same vine chains, humming faintly in the heat. "This is where the sound comes from," Armel said. He stepped forward, raising his machete. "Don't," Maya whispered. "What if it's—" But he swung anyway. The blade struck the wood and sparked, as if hitting stone. The ground trembled. From every side, the forest seemed to lean closer. The totem cracked once down the middle, releasing a gust of air that smelled of rot and rusted iron. Then came the chains again, dozens of them clinking through the canopy, as if the forest itself were exhaling metal. Armel dropped the machete and fell to his knees. "We shouldn't have come," he said. Maya grabbed my arm. "Run." We did. I don't remember how long, only that the trees eventually thinned, and the glint of water appeared through them. The river. When we reached it, Armel was gone. Just the two of us, trembling in the boat, hands raw from pulling the rope free. We pushed off, engine sputtering to life. As the current carried us downstream, I looked back one last time. The tree-line swayed, and from the shadows hung something that caught the sun, a strand of vine twisted into links, still wet, dangling from a branch. 3 days later, a rescue team found our boat drifting near Lisola. No sign of Armel. Maya hasn't spoken since. The recorders were taken for analysis. They said the final file contained overlapping voices, human and not, whispering the same phrase over and over. "Proof is a chain. Once you find it, you wear it."